I'm sharing all 8 of Spellbinders club kits along with the crate exclusive and the crate bonus. This is for February 2026. Hey crafters, it's Joy here. Thanks for joining me on my channel. So we are going to be starting with the stamp of the month. You've got this darling bunny and a bunch of sentiments. Now I did stamp the sentiments off camera and I used the coordinating dies for those because I just wanted to have all of my sentiments ready. So I am using some Olo markers to color this darling image. This is already a little scene, which is perfect, and I am using paper from Olo, so their paper that you would color on. And we've got this darling little brown bunny, a little bit of pink in the ears. We've got a couple of butterflies, and there is a coordinating die for the top part of this little scene here. So I lined it up at the bottom because I knew I wanted this piece, once I die cut it out, to separate the bottom and the top part of my card. I am using some patterned paper from scrapbook.com. It is the heirloomed pattern paper 6x8. There's also an A2 size, but I am using that on all of my cards, especially when you're making a ton of cards like this all at one time. It's kind of nice to get a color theme going on, and so using the patterned paper and then some solid colored cardstock from Spellbinders really helps to kind of pull everything together. So that's what I did for all of these cards. You can see here that the coloring was really super simple. Okay, let's place our die down. I'm going to tape that down with some mint tape. It's a low tack tape, and then the same thing with our sweet little butterflies here. Then I have my patterned paper that I trimmed down slightly larger than half, and I'm going to add 1mm foam adhesive behind this, and I'm going to adhere this to a white A2 size card base, and these card bases are from scrapbook.com. You can buy them in a pack. I think 20 come in a pack, I think. So, and then I'm going to add 2mm foam adhesive behind our bunny. So I liked having the patterned paper. This is a small scene, so this is a great way to take up some of your card space with beautiful patterned paper. So let's get our foam adhesive behind everything here, and then we're going to place this right up at the top, which is really cute. Look how cute this is. And you could put this on blue cardstock if you wanted, but I just wanted the nice white cardstock. And then the sentiment that I'm using says, "Sending springtime smiles," which I thought was really cute. I'm using 1mm for the butterflies and for my sentiment, so it'll be a little bit back from the bunny because that has 2mm, but looks really, really cute. And at the end of the video, we'll take a look at all of these up close. Okay, the next one is the Betterpress of the month. You can also foil, which is what I'm doing. Now, there is a guide here for when you are using this. I did not, and I'm going to tell you a couple of problems that posed, but I fixed it and it was fine. So if you're using the guide, this plate here will be lined up more towards the bottom. That's not how I wanted my design to go, so that's why I did not use the guide. You did not get foil this month because you got a stencil. So I'm just using a gold matte foil from my stash. It's Spellbinders hot foil. I'm running it through my glimmer machine, and then we have this gorgeous background. And then I have the sentiments. I'm going to foil all the sentiments at the same time as well. Now, the problem that it poses, because I didn't line it up with the guide, is now I have to figure out how to line up my stencil. And so you can see my stencil is crooked because the way I lined up that plate, the plate should have been shifted a little bit to the right. This is not a big deal, other than I also should have started with the flowers first because this is numbered on here. I probably should have started with that to get a perfect lineup, and I'll show you here in a minute. It's going to be on the right hand side that's a little bit off, but I was able to fix it with my sentiment. So I'm going to get these lined up, get my flowers lined up, or excuse me, my leaves. So I should have started, I think it would have been number 3, and done my my little tulips first. But look at how pretty that is. Oh my goodness, it's so nice. So on the right hand side, when I'm done, that tulip on the right is not touching the leaf on the right, the gold leaf on the right. That's where the problem lies. But again, I was able to solve it by putting down my sentiment up there, which is kind of a place I would have put it anyways, so it worked out perfect. The colors that I'm using for my inks are Tattered Rose, Saltwater Taffy, and Abandoned Coral. That's what I'm going to be using for my colors. I liked all of the coral colors. That's what I'm going to be using with my cardstocks. A lot of those colors were in that patterned paper with a little bit of blues and browns. So totally perfect for what I've been loving lately. That was Saltwater Taffy, and then I'm going to bring in Abandoned Coral. So you'll see in a minute. So I'm just going to line it up. So anyways, not a big deal. I mean, it's absolutely not a big deal. And I was able to fix all of that, and it looks fine. But you'll see here on the right how it does not touch the foil, the foil leaf. So I just had it off just a tiny bit. Now, I'm so sorry. I forgot to record this. I added my sentiment there, wishing you a day full of bloom, and it's a foiled sentiment, and then some striped paper and a gold foil strip just at the bottom of the A2 size card base and some gold sequins. I apologize. I totally forgot to record that part. Okay, this one's so cute. This is the large die of the month, and it is large. This is Sweet Bunny, is die cut from Fog Cardstock from Spellbinders. I'm using a little bit of Lost Shadow just to do some ink blending, and this will fit on a 5x7 card. It might fit on an A2 size. I don't think so, and I didn't measure it. No, I think it'll go past a little bit of a 5x7. Then I have, what cardstock is this? I think that is Bellini cardstock for the inside of the ears. And this is where we're going to use like the pinks and the corals. And I will have everything listed and linked for you guys below in the description. This is Bellini cardstock right here, and I'm using a little bit of that Saltwater Taffy. This is going to be her glasses. So you can do sunglasses or regular glasses. Also, you can die cut a sentiment into them, which I opted to not do. And then you have these great little flowers. I'm using coral cardstock and Sicily cardstock, along with some chiffon cardstock. That may have been for the ears. I think chiffon was the ears. So kind of a nice little color line there. And I'm just using my Grip Mate to do all of my ink blending on because it's sticky and stuff doesn't slide around, which is really nice. And I'm just going to cut a strip of black cardstock to put behind the eyes and nose of our darling little bunny here. And she has a scarf that I've die cut from the patterned paper, the Heirloom patterned paper. Okay, let's place our little pink inside of our ears. I love that little ear flops over. Really, really cute. She has the body. Now you could put the head together and not even use the body, and that would be really cute too. She's got some darling cheeks, and then there's her cute little ears. Isn't that so fun? Now I'm going to adhere her head to the body with a little bit of foam adhesive, and I'm going to do it on a tilt to give her a little bit of personality. And then this is the 6x8 cardstock. I trimmed it down to 5x7. And it's, again, from that patterned paper. So pretty, that brown with all the flowers, but the bunny pops. So here's part of her scarf, and I am lining up her head a little bit on that angle so I can get her scarf just right. So now that we have that there, let me add 1mm foam adhesive. And then we can place her little head on. So cute. And then here's the little ties to her little necktie. And this just has some polka dots on it. And I love a good polka dot. So I thought this was perfect for her. And then we can add that centerpiece. So for her glasses, I opted to use vellum, and I just cut some little crude circles of vellum to go behind, just so it looked a little different. Obviously, you could do a darker color to give her sunglasses, or you could do acetate for clear, but I wanted it to feel like regular, like reading glasses, cute little glasses, but with a little bit of something different so you could tell that that's what it is. Oh my gosh, how cute is she? And I'm not going to pop them up with foam adhesive because of the vellum. It would just really make it harder to see her eyes, and I didn't want to do that. So I'm just going to use some liquid glue. I'm actually going to scooch this up a little bit higher because I think they were just a little too low. Now let's get all of her little decorations on. We've got these great flowers, and I'm sure I die cut more flowers than I needed because I always, you know, end up doing that. But let's place our centers in there. I'm using acorn ink, cardstock for the centers. I'm going to put one of these flowers on her glasses because I thought that would be really cute. And then on the opposite side, so I'm going to do that on the right hand side. On the left hand side is where I'm going to put the majority of the flowers and greenery. So we're just going to get some of these glued together because I haven't decided which ones I'm using. But again, all of those beautiful colored cardstocks, Bellini, Coral, and Sicily. Chiffon is part of that little color group, but I use that very sparingly. Okay, so I have everything laid out. Let's start putting it together. I like that flower on her glasses. And then a little foam adhesive, 2mm, and then we'll just start kind of building out from there. Just kind of getting a nice layout. I definitely want a good amount of greenery because that's going to break up all of those corally pinks. And then 1mm for this flower. We're going to tuck that in. But look at how cute she is. Oh my goodness. I'm going to adhere her down, and then I can start getting the rest of the flowers tucked around. So I'm using 1mm behind our bunny here. I'm just using the 1-inch roll. And then I'm going to get her placed at the bottom here. And there's a cute sentiment that I'm going to be using. It says, "Ears to a wonderful Easter," which I just thought is so fun. I love little punny sentiments like that. And it's perfect for this bunny, I think, because she's got cute bunny ears. So let's tuck in these last few pieces. And that's just going to kind of finish her off. And I will pop this sentiment up with 2mm foam adhesive as well. I'm going to add that last little bit of greenery, and she is fantastic. Okay. Now we are going to be moving on to the stitching die, and it's a darling tree, and I have just started stitching. I'm going to go through the center, go up to the center and out to the edge, and then up to the center and out to the edge. Keep moving around. So there's large flowers and small flowers. I did 3 large flowers that I'm going to be stitching. I'm only going to show you this one because it's super simple. And I'm stitching with 2 pieces of white floss. And then I'll just tie a knot on the back. And then there is solid flowers that don't have the piercing holes that I will adhere to the back of these. The 3 little flowers that I'm going to be using, I'm just using the solid piece, not the pierced one. So you could do them all stitching. I wanted to have just 3 stitching and 3 not stitching, but they're really super simple and easy. You could do any colors, but I went with the multiple colored of cardstocks, and that's why I chose to do a white thread. And then of course I'm using pattern paper for my background, but look at how great that is. There are flower centers that I started off with, but then at the end, I ended up doing the gold sequence in the centers. So let's glue those larger stitched ones to the solid back ones. Otherwise you could see through the holes, which if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And I'm just adhering them to their same colors. And this is Bellini, Coral, and Sicily. Okay, so then we have our tree here. The greens are rainforest and fern. And we've got some grass here. Of course, I'm going to pop that up with some foam adhesive. I really should take out stock and scrapbook.com's foam adhesive because I just love it, and I love it on my cards all the time. Okay, we have these darling leaves. There's little clusters of 2 and 3 leaves and singular leaves, and I'm just going to start placing them around. I did them in both colors just to give it a little more interest. I did originally think about doing all of it in those kind of corally colors, but I opted to not, but I think that would be really pretty too. And then we can place our 6 flowers all over this tree. And the sentiment that I'm going to be using on this one says Hello Spring. And of course I stamped all of my sentiments on white cardstock with black ink. I'm sure you saw. And then we have our gold foiled sentiments, and we'll be using some of those as well. So I'm just going to lay a few of these out, just trying to get an idea where I want them to go. But I think this tree is really, really cute. This would be cute, and I don't do scrapbooking, but this would be cute, I think, on a scrapbook layout for sure. I think it's a good size and really darling, and you can absolutely customize it. All right, let's place our foam adhesive behind that one, and we can move on to the small die of the month. This one is so cute. It has flowers and greenery, carrots and Easter eggs, and this cute little wheelbarrow. Now, you can see I have eggs, but I actually decided to not use the eggs. I was going to, and then when I started laying everything out, it just didn't fit with how I wanted it to look. So I have acorn, and I believe I used chiffon cardstock, and the blue is breeze cardstock, this light blue. The darker blue was celestial, that's what it is. But I ended up not using, like I said, I didn't use the eggs, so we're not even going to see those. But I did use that breeze, which is the light blue cardstock. So instead of having the Easter eggs, and I cut that part out, putting them together. But we do have these fantastic carrots. They're so cute. So I think we're going to go with some flowers, some grass, and some carrots. There's a lot of greenery I cut out that I ended up not using that I could use on a different card. So I've got 4 flowers here of different colors. There's some grass, taller grass pieces, and I thought we're going to create a little mini scene. And I'm going to use the sentiment as like the grounding effect, and it says celebrate in full bloom. So I'm going to place my wheelbarrow there, and I do end up moving up my sentiment just a little bit, and then I'm going to start tucking the grass into that. Again, this is my grounding part of this little scene here, and isn't that pattern paper so pretty on the background? I love it. Let's tuck in a few of the flowers. I don't want to cover up the wheelbarrow that you can't tell what it is, but I want to cover up enough of it with the grass. And I love that little ornate part of the, the bucket part of the wheelbarrow. That is so pretty with all of the little stitching dots and everything. So pretty. Okay, I have 4 carrots. I'm going to tuck all 4 of those in, and then I have 1 extra carrot top because I didn't cut an extra carrot, and I'm going to just place it in there like it's a carrot laying down further, so it gives me 5 carrots. But that one's done. So super cute and simple. This one, I am so sorry, you guys. Let me just say, I was struggling. This is the stencil of the month, and it's really easy to stencil. Same colors. Green, I used Shabby shutters for the green, and then I'm just using some of my other flowers around the ear. I think this is so pretty, but it's simple stitching, and I'm so sorry that I just forgot to record. I'm telling you, I was struggling when I was making these cards. My brain was just not there, and yeah. So I'm so sorry that I didn't, again, show this being recorded, but it's just stenciling. Really super simple to line up the stencils. There's registration marks in the corners, and that's what I did. And then I just trimmed down my paper slightly smaller. But how beautiful is that? And then adding the sentiment that says Happy Easter, the foiled sentiment, and then we're going to add some foil sequins. And then I put that on some of the patterned paper from that Heirloom patterned paper. Okay, here is the 3D embossing folder of the month with some of the paper from the patterned paper. I'm going to leave the bottom out because I know that's where I want my sentiment, and I just want to have the top part embossed. And this is a beautiful embossing folder. Sometimes you can't tell, and it kind of sneaks up on you like how pretty it is once it's embossed. Then I'm going to layer that on top of that other floral paper. But first, I want to highlight the leaves just a little bit. And so I'm going to use Hero Arts Unicorn ink and just lightly rub that across the top. And then I can set that aside to dry. Now, this die set right here is the bonuses. This one is the crate exclusive. And so I'm going to have 3 flowers. The leaves I have die cut from vellum, and the stems I've die cut from white. And so I'm going to layer these. This is what you would get when you get the whole crate, when you get all of the club. Excuse me, all 8 of the clubs. You're going to get the crate exclusive, and then you're also going to get a crate bonus. So I'm going to show you both of those along with the embossing folders, because that's what we have left to make with. So again, this is the 3D embossing folder. And we're going to put these flowers together. And I'm going to use a stamped sentiment. I needed a bigger sentiment to kind of fit the bottom and how I wanted this to look. So I got foam adhesive, and I'm kind of layering those vellum leaves behind it, letting it stick to some of that foam adhesive so I can just have it tucked in already. But I'm going to scooch that up just a little bit. And then we have this blue flower. This is the Celestial and Breeze cardstock from Spellbinders. And then let me get that tucked there, and I can place that there. And then the sentiment can go over that and kind of hold down those stems. So I have 2mm foam adhesive behind that. And then I'm also going to pop up this panel with 1mm foam adhesive and then put that on top of that pretty floral, and see how some of those colors really just match. So sometimes picking a pattern paper kind of decides your color scheme. And I will say that scrapbook.com, when you get like their pattern paper pads, it just already has a color scheme together, which makes it so much easier. Okay, let's add a few sequins and then go on to our very last card. Thanks for sticking it out with me. This is the embossing folder of the month. And I have some of the kind of solid-ish color from the pattern paper pad. And I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. And then I'm going to take a little bit of gathered twigs and run that over the top. And just catching all of that beautiful embossing. I think that's so pretty. And then we're going to center that there. So this is the Season of Faith crate bonus. It's this darling little church. I'm going to do it in black and white. I have chiffon behind the window, so it's really soft and pretty. And then I will have kind of a coral, or I will use coral for the cross that goes at the top, and then fern for the little tree and bush. And then it's going to say Easter blessings for the sentiment. So let's get our door on here. I think this is a cute little die. I think you could use this for a wedding card, a baptism, a christening. Oh my gosh, anything. Easter, obviously. I think you could use it for a lot of things like that. Let's center that. And then we have our cute church. And then once we're done with this, we will take a look at all of the cards up close. I love to do that at the end of my videos because, you know, we're making it. Sometimes you just want to see it completely finished. Let's add a little bit of glue behind those. And then that sentiment will have foam adhesive. And then I'll put that in place right at the bottom. Okay, here's our first card, our stamp of the month. I love that little scene. So cute. Our Betterpress of the month, and I foiled that this time. And it looks like it's in a little planter with that striped fabric. And then our darling bunny, striped pattern paper. Geez Louise. That was the large die of the month. We have our stitching die here. So cute. Love those stitchy flowers. Then the small die, our little carrots there with our grass and our pretty flowers. Then the stencil. I love this one. I think it's so pretty. Then our 3D embossing folder along with the crate exclusive. And then the regular embossing folder along with the crate bonus. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed these projects. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.